Welcome to Arts in Motion with artist Gabriela Esquivel and guest co-host Catherine Shapiro. Conéctate todos los lunes a las 12:30 p.m. Welcome everybody to this 19th episode of Arts in Motion. Arts in Motion is a program where we connect and collaborate with musicians from across the globe. And today we have a special musician from Brazil, and his name is Antonio Adolfo. I also want to welcome my co-host, Catherine Shapiro. How are you, Catherine?
I am great. Good afternoon, everybody.
Yes. So welcome, Antonio. Finally, we made it. We made it a reality, this interview.
It's my pleasure to be here with you and Catherine, of course, Catherine Shapiro.
Thank
Gabby,
you, sir.
My longtime friend, Gabby, yes.
Yes, I met Antonio when I was studying at FIU, and I met musicians from across the globe as well there. And we started a friendship, and it's been really nice because even if he's not here, he's in Brazil, we still text and, talk about music through the WhatsApp app that brings people together.
That's right. That's right.
So let me tell the audience a little bit more about you, Antonio. Antonio is a composer. He's an arranger. He's also a jazz pianist and very successful. He has composed songs for many musicians in Brazil and also internationally. And he was pioneer in starting his own record label to be able to deliver and record original music for in Brazil and abroad as well.
That's right, Gabby. Thank you.
Antonio's mother was a violinist in the Brazil orchestra. Can you tell us a little bit more about that musical background that you have?
Yes, actually, my music background came from my mother. She was a violinist at the Symphony Orchestra in Rio de Janeiro. I could hear music since she was waiting for me. And I know that her colleagues they told her, "Oh, this next baby is going to be a musician because he's listening to music all the time." She was with the orchestra, and there were the rehearsals and the performances all the time, music going through her.
Well, believe it or not, that's one of the things that people actually who are musicians who end up later being musicians have in common.
Yes, I'm sure it contributes a lot for that. And so I had classes on violin when I was 7, but I didn't like very much the violin because the classical training I didn't enjoy so much. I think I preferred to play piano by ear in the beginning. I started playing piano by myself and then learning like simple melodies. And then I was like 10 years old. But I preferred to play bossa nova and all this music from Brazil, the popular music from Brazil. And then I became a musician at the age of 16 or 17, let's say. Started playing with musicians from the school, like the people that were studying the same school as myself. And then we had a drummer, we have a guitarist, we have a bass player. And then we started playing in the quartet. And then we invited the trumpet player, actually, he became famous, Claudio Roditi, who lived in New York City for many years. And then we started a group, Samba Cinco. Samba is Brazilian popular music. Samba, like we have boleros, we have samba in Brazil. And then Cinco because we are 5. So that was the name of the group we started. And then some of them, including myself, became professionals.
And that is the group also that you started that is called 3D when you were to record at the TV, at television.
Yes, the 3D came in 1963 to 64. There was a moment there are many trios in Brazil in bossa nova and jazz. We had a Tamba trio, we have a Zimbo trio, etc. And then I created the 3D trio. 3D actually is a very modern name till these days, 3D, third dimension.
Hmm.
Yes, and then we started professionally with that trio. I started professionally with that trio when I was 17 years old, very young.
What
Really
is
nice.
bossa nova that you enjoy so much? It seems like it's a very common thing that you really loved when you were even a lot younger, too. It was kind of the way you started. So,
Yes, for sure.
So was your
I
interest
love,
in popular music more than in the classical?
of course, yeah. Not like my sister, she was a classical piano player. And
Ah,
my mother was a violinist, a classical violinist player, and I became a like a popular music player in jazz. I went into jazz. I loved jazz, and I love bossa nova. All this came very naturally to me. Came very
mhm.
naturally, and then I returned that to the people.
And it seems like a very social thing. You wanted to get together with an audience and musicians and give back the things that you learned.
Yes, there were the jam sessions at that moment. People got together every Sunday afternoon and the evening to play in a club. I was 16 to
Mhm.
17 years old, but I loved that place. That was the only nightclub I could go in because it was before, let's say, 10 p.m. 10 p.m. was not authorized for young people like me.
that's when the night starts for musicians.
Of
Yes,
course, sure.
Come out from the gigs and then they all meet to continue
yes,
the creativity, the creative process,
yes,
right?
you got it.
And
Yes.
how was the story when you started writing your own songs?
Oh, I started to write. I think when I recorded the first album, the 3D album for RCA, the label RCA,
Mhm.
and then I wrote one song named Tema 3D. Tema is like a composition,
Hmm.
and there was just instrumental. But I started to do songwriting. Let's see, to write songs in 1967 with my partner Tiberio Gaspar. He wrote the lyrics, and then we had very good feedback from great singers that I knew them because I used to accompany some of them when I was
Hmm.
starting to be a professional. And then one of those songs became very, very popular, which it's actually is my most famous song. The original title is Samarina, which means like Mrs. Marina. And then it got English lyrics by Alan Bergman and Marilyn Bergman
Okay.
with the name Pretty World. Gabi
It's a
knows very
beautiful
well the
song.
song. Yeah,
I've studied that song here in
I
Florida.
know.
It is
I
one of my
know.
favorites too. And Shelea and Stevie Wonder recorded that song.
Yes,
Oh, that's where it sounds familiar. I see. Okay, I got you.
It's called The
Sergio.
Pretty World
Fabulous.
in English.
The first
Hmm.
record in English was by Sergio Mendez, and then we had
Ah,
the Tijuana Brass with Herb Alpert, and then Stevie Wonder. Many people.
Okay,
It was like that. Oof. It
now I
was
remember.
in the top of the Cashbox Billboard magazine.
it's
True
What is
story.
your songwriting process like? You write the instrumentals, right? And your friends and team members write the lyrics.
Yes.
Where do your ideas come from? Do they just pop in, or do you work on them for a period of time, or
I
how
think
does that work for you?
sometimes for the popular songs I wrote, I started with the guitar. You know what
I got
happens
you.
when you play the guitar? Of course, I'm not a soloist on the guitar like I am on the piano. So when I took the guitar, I started singing. So I created some more easy melodies, so more simple, easier to song, more
Mm-hmm.
friendly, let's see. And then
I got you.
that helps for pop music. But and then after creating the basic melody by singing and playing on the guitar, I used to play on the piano, and then I could sophisticate a little bit more the harmony and the chords because
That's
I had all the skills to play
The
well on the
skills.
piano.
So you
Yeah,
first start with the guitar, composing the song and singing the lyrics at the same
yeah,
time.
yeah. But when I write instrumental music, I like to write on the piano.
mm-hmm.
That's
Instrumental music. Okay.
And even when I write these days, like popular music, I go in front of the piano, play and sing because then I can breathe. Because
Mm-hmm.
piano is an instrument that you don't have a physical need to breathe, like a flute, you have to breathe, or
Yes.
saxophone. But piano can play, never take a breath.
And you have to be thinking about the singer, of course, where to
Of
stop.
course.
And the breath in music are so important. The silence
Of-
is as important as the music itself, right?
You're right. You're right,
It's
Gabby.
like a language.
Yes. Yes. You have to breathe.
So now that you're
Sometimes,
talking about, now that he's talking about his chops and all what he studied, he went to France, to Paris, to study composition.
okay.
Yes.
Studied composition
Wow.
with Nadia Boulanger. That's the how I pronounce the last name.
Yes. Yeah, Boulanger, she was a teacher for many people, including Quincy Jones, including Chick Corea, including Michel Legrand, and so
Mm-hmm.
many other composers. And then
Absolutely.
that happened in 1973. After I'd been successful with my songs, and I had the group very popular in Brazil as well before. So in 73, I took a break. I took a break and went with my wife to France to study music. And that was interesting because I forgot everything I played before, I constructed before to start something new, like studying harmony, studying like composition, studying orchestration, all this. Yes, the students that were studying with Nadia Boulanger, they are looking for the same thing. They were looking for the techniques about composition of harmonies and reading also, score reading, like reading for big orchestras. And that was a very important moment to me that made me grow as a musician. And then when I came back to Brazil, I had the chance to continue doing these studies with a great teacher as well, like Guerra Peixe. He was a great composer, classical composer, and and then I started to do my recordings, and then I came with my label, my independent label. That was 1977. I do an
So,
album.
what were the challenges you had in growing that label?
Oh, Catherine, that's true. That was a difficult moment because it was not easy to do. At that time, nobody used to do independent
You
production.
definitely were a pioneer. You are a
Oh, yeah.
pioneer in that.
Yes, yes. I started to go into the studio. When you go to the studio, it's easy. You can just record and play with other musicians. After the studio starts to be the problems, let's say.
Uh-huh.
And then you have to go to find someone to master the album, and then you have to go to the factory to ask them to make the long play, the vinyl album. I never did that before. I had to learn by
You
going there,
learned by doing.
by
You
doing.
learned by
Yes.
doing.
And the cover, there was also the cover. Yeah, that was a big work. And then the worst or more difficult is the distribution. It
Oh,
comes
yeah.
after. At that time, there was no streaming like these days, which is much more easy. But on the other hand, the thing that you had from those times, because you could make more money selling the physical products. I remember that I did a lot of shows, and the shows with many people in the audience, and then I used to, after show, I used to sell more than 500 CDs or 100 CDs. And it was like a boom. And then I succeeded with
You already had a name when you came back from Paris. You already had a name, so people will
yes,
show up to your concerts because they knew
my,
you.
so-
They knew your
my
music.
songs, as we mentioned here before. Yeah, one thing happened, helped the other. Well, I was building something because I had a background that made that easy.
Have you ever been with another record label afterwards, or you only worked independently?
Now, before then, I have been with big companies like EMI. I had been with
Yay.
Polygram, RCA, as I mentioned here before.
Yeah.
All these multinational companies. But when I recorded this new album, this I call it homemade, feito em casa, it means homemade. I offered to the companies. I didn't know I was going to become a independent producer, but they didn't want that instrumental thing, that instrumental album. They preferred me like doing the big hits, like before. That's why they did not accept to release those albums, that album through them. And then if you want that, no, I want another thing. I want to do my music, the music that I want.
Absolutely. And the music that you love. Yeah.
And then I took the flag of the independence. I took the flag.
The independent flag, because you were looking for your own sound as well. You brought this new knowledge back from Europe, and you were already looking for your own sound, Antonio Adolfo.
And then it was like,
and it's not just the sound, it's the control part of it too.
Of course, the royalties, and you are owner of what you produce. What you produce, you are the owner of that, of the copyright, not only for the compositions, but also of the phonogram.
Absolutely.
Yeah. So it's another department.
Technology.
Yeah.
Oh, definitely. Absolutely. And streaming was one of the things that changed the whole physical record industry in a lot of ways. And that was one of them. You need to know who owns what, right? And you need to gain control over your own material. And that's part of that learning process too, I'm sure.
Yeah, it started with the MP3. Remember when MP3 came? I think the year 2000, or maybe a little bit before. But I could not imagine that everything would be transformed into this scene that is today. Like, which in some point I think it's more democratic because anyone can record what he or her wants.
Yeah.
And then they can have immediately in the streaming thing. It's true. But on the other hand, they pay very badly.
The quality is lowered. Yeah, it's not always at the studio.
Yes.
There's pros and cons. Pros and cons.
You have to be a self-producer in totally or you have to hire musicians or
engineer
in the studio, unless you are engineer also, or you are arranger and you play everything on the keyboard. But I prefer this way because there are several streaming companies. There are several possibilities of you still sell the albums in your performance. When I do a live performance, I have the chance to sell some of the albums.
Right.
Yeah.
And you got ownership and control over the whole entire process this way, which is
right,
great.
That's what I want to ask a little bit more about the ownership of the songs. If you co-write with somebody, when you are here in the United States, if you are in ASCAP or BMI, a
Yes,
percentage is divided to the writer and another percentage to you can have your own publisher. How
yes,
is it over there? How have you worked with it? If you want to have control about your project in total, do you do contracts that are work for hire agreements, or how do you work around it?
let's do it step by step. I own my copyrights for my songs,
Okay.
for my compositions. If I have a partner, okay, if I have a partner like a lyricist partner, we share that percentage.
And the
And
publishing too? You share the publishing?
I have my own publishing. It's
Okay.
artisanal. Artisanal is with ASCAP. I'm ASCAP
Yeah,
member.
ASCAP.
Yes. In Brazil, I belong to another society of composers. It's AMAR, AMAR, but it's the same thing.
Yeah.
I am ASCAP for the entire world except Brazil. And
Okay.
then what happens is the publishing company keeps a percentage of the song. So, but I have my own publishing.
Okay. So
So
when you have a co-writer, if the co-writer is also in ASCAP, when the co-writer has the writer part and the publisher,
that's no problem. He can belong to any society in the world.
yeah.
Doesn't have to be ASCAP. Doesn't have to be the same society that I belong.
And which has been your best experience composing with other musicians? What is your favorite part of collaborating?
Actually, when it's instrumental, normally I do everything.
Okay.
I am the only owner. When I is with lyricists, because I don't write lyrics normally, and then I have English lyricists, co-writers that are for United States, for example, or that have co-writers in Brazilian.
Okay.
Yeah, so they are different.
You are basically focused on the music, and the lyricists take the lyrics of uh, what you produce in the music, and then come up with the words that would fit.
Yes.
Do you and do you like have an idea of what your words should be when you get the music from wherever you get your ideas from?
I understand the
If you
question.
understand what I mean?
Yes, that's a good question. Sometimes I give an idea to the lyricist, and sometimes I leave that to them. But sometimes, you know what happens? I start composing from pre-written lyrics.
Okay.
For example, the lyricist gives me the lyrics, and then I start to compose over those lyrics.
Over those lyrics.
For those lyrics.
Okay.
There's
another
no
way.
one only way of how to compose, but it can be the lyrics be the inspiration or the music be the inspiration for the lyricist.
Yes, doesn't matter. You know, I never did that before, but recently I have been doing this, writing the music after. So that's interesting because that gave me some different inspiration. Because when we start from the scratch on writing the music, the melody, normally you go to some cliches, cliches that you doesn't imagine what's going to be later. You just create that melody. But when you write for lyrics, so you have to be for that lyric, for those lyrics, and then that could inspire you to write different melodies. That's interesting. Different rhythms. That's what I've been doing lately, and I'm enjoying very much doing that.
What kinds of things inspire you to write your music? I know some people who've had conversations.
Yeah.
I know people who've had all sorts of experiences. What are yours like?
Yes, the way when I start writing music, I start playing the piano, and I start to play chords and start to play rhythms. That's doing a scratch. No, start to combining different sounds, but I'm not inspired in such a situation, like for a girl or for moments. No, I do what I can. That's
Uh, okay.
something naturally. I cannot say, oh, I'm going to write for that ocean, the ocean. No, I don't think about that.
Because you're a musician, you have all these sounds and a combination of chords, and you're a jazz musician. So you go through
Yes,
the music. And now that we're talking
yes,
about that, I have a video that I want to share of you
Cool.
performing in Sex, Brazil. What is
great.
that a specific festival? SES?
Yes, yes,
Okay.
yes.
All right. So I'm going to play a little bit of that for all of us. How did you started playing here in the United States with jazz musicians, with jazz performers? How was that transition from Brazil to here?
Yes. First, I came to the US in 1989, and we stayed in Los Angeles for like 2 years. And then I met many people there, and I was also teaching at some schools, music schools like Grove School of Music, the Musicians Institute, and Santa Monica College, etc. And then I also performed there and some clubs, jazz clubs, with Brazilian and American musicians. We have John Leftwich on the bass, Ron Wagner on drums, and I had some Brazilians like Antonio Santana, and Ricardo Silveira, and many other instrumentalists. And then I stayed there for 2 years, and I had an album released at that moment. And then we came back to Brazil because of the school. We have a school too these days. It's a big school in Rio de Janeiro, and we had to take care of the school, to be here, to be in Rio de Janeiro. And then I had, with my family, we have to come back to Rio. And then in 1996, I started to think about living in Miami, which I loved very much. I like very much Florida, South Florida, besides the hurricanes, except for the hurricanes.
That's true.
Yeah, but we love Florida. It's a nice place. The weather is very similar to the one in Brazil that we have in Brazil, in Rio de Janeiro. And we have many friends in Miami. Until these days, I am in Miami. Now, these last 2 years, I've been going back and forth to Rio, between Rio and Miami all the time. And then in Miami, I met many people like Jamie Ousley, like Carlomagno Araya, who is from Costa Rica.
Carlomagno for Costa Rica, yes.
Yeah,
And you know
actually,
who else? I went to see Antonio performing at Eugenia and Saul Vera School in
yes.
Aventura. I saw Antonio performing live there. It was wonderful.
They are
Yes.
so awesome.
Those are great friends as well. And they have a nice school in Aventura. And there's people in Florida, and not only in Miami, but also in Boca Raton and also different places. And then that's the way it happened. But I keep going back and forth.
Yes, you keep very, very connected here in the United States, in Miami, and also in Brazil. Who are the musicians that you're working most right now in Brazil?
I work with the people that has been recording with me. It's like I have an octet. They recorded all my recent albums since 2016, 17. With the same musicians. We have four horn sections. Yeah, we have four people in the horn section.
So we're running out of time, but I want to ask, where can people get to know more about you? And what are your next projects coming?
Okay. Every year I have been releasing different albums from 10 years ago till now. My next project, I still don't know. I'm thinking, I'm creating, elaborating. I'm
Okay.
playing and trying this and that. And I've been playing different places, festivals. We recently played in Rock in Rio. It was a big festival, it's a main festival in Brazil. And I'm gonna play next month in another festival in Ipanema Beach. It's a big thing also. And
Around Brazil, mostly around Brazil.
Yes.
Okay. Definitely keep us informed about everything that you do.
Especially if you're coming here.
All the information here with our audience.
I will be always in touch, Gabi.
It's been a pleasure to have you here. And I'm going to leave with a little bit of video about Brazil and your music as well.
And it was very good to meet you, sir. Thank you so much for joining us today.
Thanks so much, Catherine.
Welcome to Arts in Motion with artist Gabriela Esquivel and guest co-host Catherine Shapiro. Conéctate todos los lunes a las 12:30 p.m.